Breaking tonight, Central Command says the United States has launched a new round of, quote, self-defense strikes against Iran. And Iran state media says it has targeted an American base in northern Iraq and that the Strait of Hormuz is now completely closed. Trump's war of choice appears to be escalating, folks, just hours after he claimed a ceasefire. Now, look, that deal is nowhere in sight any longer. It's one of many mixed messages from the president on the war. Yesterday, Trump went from saying that a downed Apache helicopter near the Strait of Hormuz, quote, wasn't a big deal, to saying Iran had shot it down and that he was ordering retaliatory strikes. Many former members of the military are now running for office, in part to put a check on the president's war powers. More than 700 veterans, thank goodness, are out there as candidates for Congress this year. 39% are running as Democrats, the highest number since the nonpartisan group with Honor began tracking that data. Two of those Democratic congressional candidates joined us tonight. Rebecca Bennett of New Jersey is a former U.S. Navy helicopter pilot who was deployed to the Middle East and flew missions through the Strait of Hormuz. And JoAnna Mendoza of Arizona is a retired U.S. Marine who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we are happy to welcome you both.
Thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
How do you think Congress would be different if there were more people casting votes who understood firsthand what was at stake?
Well, I mean, that lived experience is absolutely important. Right now, we have a Congress who isn't motivated to do anything. They can't pass a budget. They can't give the American people relief. And so what we're seeing right now across the nation, and especially, you know, within the Hellcat group, is we're answering the call to serve again. That oath that we took many times, it does not expire. And so for us, this is absolutely a matter of ensuring that when decisions are being made to send our kids into harm's way, that they're made, number one, with the approval of Congress, and two, by the American people.
This is some analysis by our colleague Steve Bannon on MS Now. Trump peddles more mixed messages after accusing Iran of downing a U.S. helicopter. This is what he writes. We remain in the middle of a ceasefire in which the fire has not ceased. It was weird to see Trump claim that Iran is powerless and, quote unquote, all talk and no action, while also accusing it of having shot down a U.S. helicopter. Though the combination of military strikes and mixed messages once again suggests the end point to the conflict is not near. There are real consequences. Yes, for the folks, the men and women serving in our U.S. armed forces, but also for the people here at home. Their families, but also the American people. We just ran down the numbers of what folks in this country are dealing with. And what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz right now, or what's not happening, let's just be very clear, is we're going to feel those effects for months and months after, even if the Strait were to open tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I will say anytime we're going to go put American service members in harm's way, to your point, there needs to be a clear motivation, clear objective, and a clear exit strategy. And what we are seeing is that the Trump administration is learning in real time that it's much easier to start a war than it is to stop one. And it's exactly what I hear from people on the ground in my district, is that Trump ran on no more forever wars and lowering the cost of living. He's doing the exact opposite. And this is where House Republicans have absolutely failed to hold him accountable. And that's why we've got to flip the House to make sure we're holding them accountable.
You know, JoAnna, the president has been consistent about one thing. He's been very consistent about not really engaging on this war and not really grabbing the mantle of responsibility to prosecute this war. He started this, to your important point. But since then, there are other things, damn it, that just seem to occupy his time. Like there's a basketball game he's got to go to. You know, there's a golf outing he's got to go to.
The UFC fight.
He's got a UFC fight he's got to prepare for. But doesn't have time to go to his son's wedding. Okay, that's cool. I got that because he had to do Iran stuff that day, which turns out he really didn't do. But here's the president talking about his sort of laser focus on this and how all this comes together at a tele-rally at almost the exact moment the Apache chopper was shot down. Let's take a listen.
It really is peace through strength. We've hit their Navy. Their Navy is totally gone. They had 159 ships. Every ship is underwater right now. Every ship is deep underwater. Their Air Force is gone. Their radar is gone. Their anti-aircraft is gone.
Their anti-aircraft is gone. Trump made those remarks at 5:46 p.m. Eastern, around the exact time. CENTCOM says the Apache helicopter crashed near the coast of Oman. Rescue occurred at 7:33. Crash happened within 2 hours before that. Trump says the Apache was shot down once again, contradicting his claim that their anti-aircraft is gone. And this is the problem.
And no mention of the service member, no mention of how this has put not only the civilians in Iran in danger, but our kids, right? Our sons and daughters. And I will argue that, I mean, who the heck is advising the president right now? Doesn't he have a cabinet? I mean, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rubio. Who is advising him on foreign policy right now? And why aren't they standing up? My opponent, Juan Ciscomani, is spineless. He has not said a single word pushing back on the president and this reckless war. Meanwhile, we have people in the district, parents, not just Democrats, not just independents, but I've heard from conservative parents that they are absolutely terrified that their kids are being sent to Iran or have orders there. And you know what they've told me? They will not vote for a single Republican this November because of that.
Well, it's a good thing to note that two members of that crew were rescued. They're okay. But again, to your point, in everything we've heard, there's not been that reflective moment about the lives of our servicemen and women that he's put in harm's way.
He has. You ask who is advising the president? Well, the defense secretary is probably one of the folks. But you talk about distractions and mixed messages. He's too busy blocking women and black people from being Navy, from promotions. This is from the New York Times on June 1st. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently blocked the promotions of 9 Navy officers who had been selected by a board of senior Navy admirals. 3 of the officers removed by Mr. Hegseth from the promotion list are women, and 2 are black men.
I mean, Pete Hegseth has been very clear from the beginning that he does not think women and people of color should be able to serve in the military. And we should be recruiting our best and brightest from every background and every walk of life to be able to serve. And that's the beauty of the military, is we're a mixing pot of the entire country. And to your question earlier, that's what veterans do, is we figure out how to work with the people we have to be able to get things done and to be able to solve problems. And so what I would always say is, I was a former Navy helicopter pilot, only 6% of naval aviators are women. And I would always say the helicopter doesn't know what gender the person is. You just got to get the job done. And that is the mindset that I'm bringing to office to be able to actually get stuff done. But I mean, Pete Hegseth is a disgrace to the office that he holds.
So, Rebecca, your race has garnered national attention in part because the incumbent you are running against, Republican Tom Kean Jr. of the great state of New Jersey, has been MIA for what is now a pretty concerning period of time, just given how high the stakes are in this moment, given that we are a country at war. What is your greatest concern for your district, the district you live in, as a constituent, about the fact that you do not currently have an active member of Congress? Yeah,
I mean, he's been missing for over 3 months now, and the last time we saw him was in early March, and what we've been told is he has a medical condition. I wish him well. I hope he's doing well. But to your point, he's absolutely failing this district. He's not standing up to the president on anything, to include this war in Iran, and we deserve better. And so that is why I'm running for office, is because for me, this is about fighting for the version of the country that I want to leave for my daughters and the next generation. And so we are going to flip this seat in November.
JoAnna, how do you see your race right now? You mentioned your opponent just now. Where are things? How do you feel about it? And I'm particularly interested, given the makeup of your district. You mentioned Republicans, you mentioned conservatives. Less interested in sort of the yin and yang of that, but how's that response been for you?
Well, I mean, look, he has not held a single town hall since he was elected. 2 terms, 4 years ago. He has not spoken to the constituents that sent him to D.C. to do the work, right? To ensure that that costs remain low, that people have access to affordable health care, that gas prices remain low. In this district, it is extremely rural. So folks go into town to buy groceries, to pick up their kids from school, to go to the doctor, and they're getting penalized more because of the gas prices. But what I will tell you is that right now, both sides, everyone is upset. And they're upset by the lack of focus, and Congress isn't getting anything done. So Being from the state of former Senator John McCain, we talk to a lot of Republicans who consider themselves McCain Republicans. So we have made that distinction in the campaign, is that, look, you're a MAGA Republican, that's fine. But if you believe in the Constitution, the rule of law, and ensuring that everyone in this country has the opportunity to fulfill their version of the American dream, then you have a place on my team.
All right. Rebecca Bennett.
Thank you.
JoAnna Mendoza, thank you
Thank you.
both for being with us. Really appreciate it, and all the best. Stay with us, folks. There's more of the Weeknight right after the break.